Hey everyone, I'm excited for today's deep dives. It's all about making AI work for everyone, especially people with disabilities. We're public servants, right?
Absolutely.
So we got to be thinking about how to make things better, more inclusive for every Canadian.
Couldn't agree more. And, well, we found this awesome guide from Accessibility Standards Canada.
Oh yeah, I was going to mention that.
Yeah, it's really practical. I think you'll be surprised. It's not like, just a bunch of policies and jargon.
Yeah, it's actually really engaging. It's like, okay, Canada wants to be barrier-free by 2040. Big goal, right?
Right.
And AI is obviously going to be a big part of that. So this guide kind of lays out how to do it right.
Yeah, connecting cutting edge tech with, well, with human needs,
Yeah.
making sure no one's left behind.
Exactly. And it all starts with the Accessible Canada Act, right?
hmm
But I think sometimes we forget that this act, it's not just some law that appeared out of thin air. Like thousands of Canadians gave input,
Oh,
right?
yeah, over 6,000 individuals, something like 90 organizations. They
Mm.
all chimed in, said what needed to change.
So it's really grounded in what people actually need, what they experience.
Exactly. This isn't just like checking boxes to say we're compliant. It's about dignity, equal opportunity and everyone being able to participate, especially people with disabilities.
And that nothing about us without us idea that really comes through in the guide. It's like people with disabilities shouldn't just be using AI. They should be creating it.
100%. The guide actually has some great, very practical advice on how to make that happen.
Oh yeah, like what?
Well, for starters, using accessible design tools, making sure AI resources are actually understandable, easy to use for everyone, and getting feedback from people with disabilities throughout the whole process.
Makes sense. I mean, it's like how we think about our services, right? We
Yeah.
want everyone to be able to access them. So AI should be designed with that same principle in mind.
And it goes beyond just making AI accessible. It also delves into this concept of equitable AI, which I think is really crucial.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. What does equitable AI actually mean, especially for people with disabilities? Like, what does it look like in the real world?
So, one way to think about it is equitable AI means fairness, even for people who might be outside of what we think of as average. Like the guide talks about statistical discrimination, right? Where
Yeah.
AI systems, even if the data seems neutral, can accidentally disadvantage certain groups, like people with disabilities.
Can you give me an example of that to make it a bit clearer?
Sure. Let's say there's an AI tool that helps with hiring. It looks at resumes, and maybe it flags candidates who have gaps in their work history. Sounds fair on the surface, right?
Yeah, at first glance.
But what if someone had to take time off work for medical reasons, right? Because of a disability.
Oh, I see. So that gap in their work history doesn't mean they're not qualified, but the AI might automatically screen them out.
Exactly. And that's just one tiny example. There are tons of ways AI could unintentionally make existing inequalities worse if we're not super careful.
So how do we fix that? How do we make sure those kinds of things don't happen?
Well, the guide talks a lot about disaggregated data. That's a fancy way of saying it's not enough to just look at overall averages. We got to break things down, see how AI is affecting different groups of people, especially marginalized communities. We need to make sure that the data we're using actually reflects the diversity of Canada,
Mhm.
including people with disabilities.
So we got to make sure AI benefits everyone, not just the majority.
Exactly. And the systems themselves, they got to be flexible enough to accommodate different needs and circumstances. We can't just try to fit everyone into one box.
This is making me think we really can't just tack on accessibility and equity as an afterthought, can we? It has to be built into the design of AI systems right from the start.
Absolutely. And that's where, we as public servants, we have a really important role to play. Yeah, we really can make a difference here. It's like this guide's not just some theoretical thing. It's full of concrete actions we can take, to make AI more inclusive, more equitable for every Canadian.
Okay, so what can we as public servants, what can we actually do? Give me the nitty-gritty, the stuff we can put into practice.
Well, one thing that really stuck out to me was the emphasis on impact assessments. Like, before we even roll out an AI system, we got to do a thorough assessment. And not just, going through the motions. We have to actually involve people with disabilities in the process.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess that would help us catch potential problems early on before they become big issues, right?
Exactly. And it's not just about finding problems. It's about, working together to find solutions. People with disabilities, they're experts in their own lived experiences. They can give us insights that we might never think of on our own.
That's a good point. It's not about fixing people. It's about seeing their expertise and working with them to make things better for everyone.
Right. And another thing the guide talks about is transparency. Citizens need to understand how AI systems are making decisions that affect them. especially people with disabilities. They need to know what's going on.
Yeah, because if these systems aren't accountable, if people can't challenge decisions they think are unfair, that's a problem.
It's about trust, you know? If people don't get how an AI system works, they're not going to trust it. And that can have huge consequences, especially when it comes to things like essential services, benefits, all that all.
So transparency is about more than just explaining how AI works. It's about giving people the power to understand and actually engage with these systems, right?
Exactly. And on that note, the guide also stresses the need for alternatives. AI isn't a one-size-fits-all solution, right? Sometimes you need a human touch. Sometimes a different approach altogether.
Good reminder. We need to be flexible. AI should be a tool that makes our services better, not something that completely replaces human interaction.
AI should be there to serve people, not the other way around, right?
So we've got impact assessments, transparency, alternative options. Anything else the guide recommend?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Feedback mechanisms, that's a big one. People, especially people with disabilities, they need to be able to easily report any problems they run into with AI systems.
That makes sense. We need to be hearing from people, good and bad experiences. That feedback is how we keep making these systems better, make sure they're working how they're supposed to.
It's all about continuous learning, right? AI is always changing, evolving, so we need to constantly evaluate what we're doing, make adjustments based on real feedback. And that's where we, as public servants, we're so important.
Because we're the ones working directly with citizens, right?
Mhm.
We're in the best position to gather that feedback, flag issues, and push for changes that'll make AI work better for everyone.
We got to take ownership, be proactive. We can't just wait for problems to happen. We need to always be thinking, how can we use AI ethically, responsibly, and make sure it's inclusive, you know?
This is making me think about all the ways we're already using AI. Processing applications, providing services, it's everywhere.
And it's only going to become more prevalent, which is why it's so crucial that we get this right, you know? The choices we make today, they're going to have a huge impact down the road on all Canadians, but especially people with disabilities.
So it's not just about following the rules of the Accessible Canada Act. It's about really taking it to heart, committing to building a society that's truly inclusive
Yeah.
for everyone.
And this guide, it gives us the roadmap to do just that. It gives us the tools, the knowledge to use AI for good.
This has been a great conversation. I feel like I have a much better grasp on, what accessible and equitable AI really means
Mm.
and what our role is in making it happen. It's interesting, right? We started talking about this technical guide,
Yeah,
but this whole conversation, it's really been about people.
it really has. And I think that's important to remember.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, AI is just a tool.
A tool, that's it.
And like any tool, you can use it the right way or the wrong way.
For good or for bad.
Exactly.
It all comes down to, well, the people using it.
And that's what makes this guide so valuable for us, I think, for public servants.
It gives us a framework, right, for how to think about AI in a way that aligns with what we do, with service, with inclusion, with equity.
It reminds us that we have a duty to use AI in a way that benefits everyone in Canada.
Not just a select few.
And it's pretty practical, too. It gives us concrete steps, like
Yeah.
how to do those impact assessments, how to design transparent systems, how to get good feedback.
Oh, and that nothing about us without us principle. That was a big one for me.
Yeah, it's powerful.
Like, people with disabilities, they need to have a seat at the table
They need to be involved
when decisions are being made that affect them.
right from the start.
And not just, as people who use the technology, but as the people who design it, who develop it.
The creator.
Exactly. We need their expertise, their experiences, their creativity.
Because they're not just users. They could be designers, developers, innovators,
Yeah.
leaders in this field.
100%. And when we create that space, for collaboration, for working together, that's when we get the best results.
That's when the magic happens.
Exactly. We start to see solutions that we never could have come up with on our own.
And it's about recognizing that accessibility and equity, these aren't just extras or afterthoughts, right? They're fundamental.
They're baked in.
They have to be part of everything we do from the very beginning.
They're not just about checking boxes. They're about doing things better.
They're about innovation.
When we design with everyone in mind, the products are better, the services are better, and society is better.
So to wrap up, I want to leave everyone with a bit of a challenge. Think about how you can use what we've talked about today, these ideas about accessible and equitable AI. How can you use them to make a real difference in the lives of Canadians, especially folks with disabilities?
It starts with with being aware, with educating ourselves, with being committed to these principles in everything we do.
Whether you're creating a new program, launching a new website, or just talking to a citizen, keep in mind the power of accessible and equitable AI. It's not just about the technology, it's about people.
And it's about building a future where everyone has the opportunity to participate, to contribute, to make Canada truly inclusive, truly barrier-free.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We hope it's given you some things to think about, some inspiration to take action. Until next time, keep learning, keep asking questions, and keep striving to make a positive impact.